Ladies and gentlemen, there is something profoundly powerful about feeling understood. It is the foundation of trust, the driving force of human connection, and the spark that ignites real action. We live in a world that often pushes people to chase success, achievement, and progress, yet so many feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued. The truth is, the most effective way to inspire action is not through authority or instruction, but through empathy. Empathy is not about agreeing with everyone. It is not about simply listening to respond. It is about seeking to understand. It is about seeing the world through the eyes of another and recognizing that every person carries a story, one that shapes their fears, their dreams, and their decisions. Think about a time when you felt truly understood, when someone didn't just hear your words, but actually got you. That feeling is rare, isn't it? That's because most of our interactions are based on transaction, not connection. We ask questions not to understand, but to reply. We listen not to learn, but to confirm what we already believe. And when we do that, we miss the opportunity to create something far more meaningful than a conversation. We miss the chance to create trust. Trust is the foundation of every strong relationship, every thriving team, and every great leader. Without trust, people comply, but they don't commit. Without trust, people may do what is asked of them, but they won't go the extra mile. Without trust, companies struggle, relationships fracture, and movements fail to take off. Trust is not built through words alone. It is built through consistent actions that show we genuinely care. Empathy is not about being soft. It's about being strong enough to put yourself in someone else's shoes, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about asking, what is this person going through, instead of rushing to judge. It's about recognizing that no one wakes up in the morning hoping to fail or make bad choices. People do the best they can with the tools they have. Great leaders understand this. They don't inspire action by standing at the top and shouting orders. They inspire by standing with their people, understanding their struggles, and walking beside them. The best leaders are those who say, I see you, I hear you, I value you. And when people feel valued, they give their best, not because they have to, but because they want to. Empathy is not just for leaders, it's for anyone who wants to make an impact. Whether you are a teacher, a business owner, a friend, or a parent, your ability to truly understand others will define the strength of your influence. The greatest change in history has not come from those who dictated rules, but from those who listened, who cared, who made others feel like they mattered. When people feel seen, they step up. When people feel heard, they speak up. And when people feel understood, they act not out of obligation, but out of inspiration. The ripple effect of empathy is immeasurable. One act of understanding can change the course of a conversation. One moment of listening can alter someone's belief in themselves. One person who chooses to lead with empathy can transform an entire culture. So the question is, how will you show up today? Will you rush to be right, or will you pause to understand? Will you listen to respond, or will you listen to connect? Will you demand action, or will you inspire it through empathy? Because the world doesn't need more people telling others what to do. The world needs more people who care enough to understand why people do what they do. And when we lead with empathy, we don't just change others, we change ourselves. True connection happens when people feel understood, not just heard. Trust is built through consistent actions that show genuine care. Compliance may come from authority, but real commitment comes from feeling seen, heard, and appreciated. The most inspiring leaders don't just give orders. They stand with their teams, understand their struggles, and support them. Whether in leadership, business, or relationships, true impact comes from understanding others rather than just instructing them. People don't act out of obligation, but out of inspiration when they feel truly valued and supported. Trust is one of the most valuable currencies in human relationships. It determines the strength of our connections, the depth of our influence, and the level of success we achieve in leadership, business, and life. But trust does not come from titles, power, or authority. It is built through empathy, the ability to genuinely understand and care about others. Empathy is more than just hearing what someone says. It is about understanding what they mean, what they feel, and why they feel it. It requires us to step outside of our own perspectives and see the world through the experiences of another person. This is not always easy because it means putting aside our own judgments, assumptions, and immediate responses. But when we take the time to truly listen and understand, something powerful happens. Trust begins to form. Trust is fragile. It cannot be demanded, forced, or faked. It must be earned through consistent actions that demonstrate we are reliable, honest, and most importantly, that we care. People do not open up to those they do not trust. They do not share their struggles, their ideas, or their fears with those who have not shown them understanding. In organizations, when leaders fail to build trust, employees may follow instructions, but they do so with hesitation, skepticism, or even resentment. However, when trust is present, people become more open, more willing to take risks, and more committed to a shared vision. We often think that trust is built through words, but it is actually built through actions. It is not enough to say, "You can trust me." People trust those who show up consistently, who listen without judgment, and who support them even in difficult times. A leader who only listens when it is convenient will never earn the loyalty of their team. A friend who only cares when it benefits them will never form deep, lasting relationships. Trust grows in the small moments, the times when someone feels safe enough to be honest, to express their true thoughts, and to be vulnerable without fear of being dismissed or criticized. One of the biggest mistakes people make in communication is listening to respond instead of listening to understand. When someone shares a concern, many people are quick to offer a solution, to minimize the issue, or to turn the conversation toward their own experiences. But empathy requires patience. It requires us to pause, to truly absorb what the other person is saying, and to recognize their emotions before rushing in with advice or opinions. The simple act of making someone feel heard is one of the most powerful ways to build trust. Trust also requires consistency. It is not built in a single moment, but through repeated experiences. If someone listens with empathy one day but is dismissive the next, trust erodes. If a leader preaches the importance of valuing employees but fails to show up when they are struggling, trust is lost. The people who are most trusted in life are those who are reliable, not just when things are easy, but especially when things are hard. In any relationship, whether personal or professional, the level of trust determines the level of openness. When trust is low, people hold back. They protect themselves, they hesitate, and they avoid taking risks. But when trust is high, people share ideas freely. They collaborate with enthusiasm, and they are willing to go the extra mile because they know they are supported. Empathy does not mean always agreeing with others. It does not mean avoiding difficult conversations or sugarcoating reality. True empathy is about acknowledging another person's perspective, even when it differs from our own. It is about recognizing that their emotions and experiences are valid, even if we do not share them. When people feel that their thoughts and feelings are respected, they become more open to feedback, to growth, and to working toward solutions together. Some of the greatest leaders in history were not those who ruled with fear or demanded respect. They were the ones who made people feel understood, valued, and inspired. They built trust not through force, but through connection. They recognized that trust is not a given, it is something that must be nurtured and protected. Building trust through empathy is not just a leadership skill, it is the foundation of strong families, thriving teams, successful businesses, and meaningful friendships. Every interaction is an opportunity to either strengthen trust or weaken it. The choice to listen, to understand, and to truly care is what sets apart those who inspire lasting trust from those who struggle to earn it. People may comply with rules, follow instructions, or meet expectations because they have to, but true commitment comes from something deeper. It comes from feeling valued, seen, and appreciated. When people feel like they matter, they invest themselves fully, not because they are required to, but because they genuinely want to contribute. At the heart of every strong relationship, successful team, or thriving organization is a culture of appreciation. People are not machines. They do not function at their best under pressure, fear, or obligation alone. Instead, they thrive in environments where they feel recognized for their efforts, respected for their contributions, and understood as individuals. There is a fundamental difference between compliance and commitment. Compliance is doing the bare minimum to avoid consequences. It is showing up to work because of a paycheck, following orders out of obligation, or participating in something just to meet expectations. Commitment, on the other hand, is driven by a sense of purpose. It is when someone puts in extra effort, not because they have to, but because they care about the outcome. It is when a team member stays late to help a colleague, when an employee takes initiative beyond their job description, or when a friend goes out of their way to offer support. This level of dedication does not happen by accident. It happens when people feel truly valued. Recognition is one of the most powerful motivators. It is not just about rewards or incentives, it is about feeling seen. A simple thank you, a genuine acknowledgement of someone's hard work, or an expression of gratitude can transform someone's attitude and performance. People want to know that their efforts are noticed, that their work makes a difference, and that they are not just another cog in the system. When they feel appreciated, they bring their best selves to the table. Leaders who fail to make their people feel valued often wonder why motivation is low, why turnover is high, or why their team lacks enthusiasm. The answer is simple. People will give the bare minimum when they feel like they are treated as if they are replaceable. But when leaders take the time to recognize individuals not just for what they do, but for who they are, everything changes. A culture of appreciation fosters loyalty, increases engagement, and strengthens relationships in ways that money or policies alone never could. This applies far beyond the workplace. In personal relationships, appreciation strengthens bonds. When people feel valued in a friendship, they invest more in it. When partners in a relationship feel seen and appreciated, their connection deepens. When children feel acknowledged for their efforts, they develop confidence and motivation. In every aspect of life, people respond to appreciation with greater energy, passion, and commitment. Feeling valued is not just about praise, it is about being respected and heard. It is about knowing that your ideas, opinions, and contributions matter. When people feel like they have a voice, they become more engaged. They take initiative, they innovate, and they push themselves to do better. On the other hand, when they feel ignored or unappreciated, they disengage. They stop contributing, they stop caring, and they do only what is necessary to get by. It is easy to assume that people know they are appreciated, but in reality, appreciation must be actively expressed. A leader who assumes their team knows they are doing a great job but never says it will eventually lose the trust and loyalty of their people. A friend who assumes their presence is enough but never expresses gratitude for the relationship may find that connection fading. Appreciation must be intentional. It must be shown consistently, not just in big moments, but in everyday interactions. People do not give their best because they are told to. They give their best because they feel like their best is needed, wanted, and valued. The difference between a workplace where people simply show up and one where people thrive is the level of appreciation they experience. The difference between a struggling relationship and a strong one is how much both individuals feel valued. The difference between a disengaged community and an active one is how much its members feel like they matter. Every person has a deep need to feel that what they do makes a difference. When that need is met, they step up, they go beyond expectations, and they give more than is required. They commit fully, not because they have to, but because they want to. Leadership is not about titles, authority, or power. It is about the willingness to stand with people, understand their struggles, and guide them toward a common purpose. The most inspiring leaders are not those who dictate from above, but those who walk beside their people, sharing in the challenges, the risks, and the journey toward success. There is a common misconception that leadership means having all the answers, making all the decisions, and directing others toward a goal. But the most effective leaders understand that their role is not to be above their team, but to be among them. They do not see themselves as superior. They see themselves as responsible for the people they lead, for the culture they create, and for the outcomes they strive for. Leadership is not about taking credit. It is about taking responsibility. People do not follow leaders because of their position. They follow because they trust them. That trust is built when a leader shows that they genuinely care, that they are willing to listen, and that they are invested in the well-being of their team. A leader who stands apart, issuing commands without understanding the reality of the people they lead, creates distance. But a leader who stands with their people, supporting them, guiding them, and working alongside them, earns loyalty and commitment. One of the greatest ways leaders inspire others is by showing vulnerability. Too often, leadership is associated with strength, certainty, and confidence. But real leadership also includes humility, openness, and the ability to admit when things are difficult. When a leader acknowledges challenges rather than pretending everything is perfect, they create a culture of honesty. When they admit they do not have all the answers but are committed to figuring things out together, they build trust. When they show that they are human, their people connect with them on a deeper level. Leaders who walk beside their people understand that success is not just about results. It is about the journey. They recognize that people perform at their best when they feel supported, valued, and empowered. They take the time to listen, to understand concerns, and to provide guidance. They do not simply tell people what to do, they help them develop the confidence and skills to succeed. The best leaders are not those who create followers, but those who develop more leaders. In any team, organization, or community, people look to leadership for direction, but they also look for connection. A leader who is present, engaged, and willing to be in the trenches with their team creates an environment of trust and respect. When a leader is willing to do the hard work alongside their people, they inspire a level of commitment that no amount of authority can demand. Leaders who distance themselves from their people often find that engagement decreases, morale drops, and motivation fades. When people feel disconnected from leadership, they begin to see their work as just a task rather than a meaningful contribution. But when leaders take the time to truly connect, to understand the struggles their people face, and to offer support rather than just direction, the entire culture shifts. People become more engaged, more dedicated, and more willing to go the extra mile, not because they have to, but because they want to. Empathy is at the heart of great leadership. It is the ability to step into someone else's experience, to understand their challenges, and to help them navigate through them. Leaders who take the time to listen before they speak, to understand before they judge, and to support before they demand, create environments where people thrive. They recognize that leadership is not about being the most important person in the room. It is about making everyone else feel important. People do not give their best effort for leaders who command from a distance. They give their best for leaders who show up, who care, and who stand beside them through the highs and lows. A leader who takes the time to know their people, to understand their aspirations, and to invest in their growth creates a culture of trust and commitment. When leaders walk beside their people, they create something far more powerful than authority. They create loyalty. They inspire not through fear or pressure, but through connection and trust. They show that leadership is not about standing above, it is about standing with. Influence is not about forcing people to listen or demanding that they follow. True influence comes from the ability to connect, to inspire, and to make others feel understood. The most effective leaders, mentors, and changemakers are not those who command authority, but those who earn trust through empathy and genuine understanding. People respond not to instructions alone, but to the feeling that they matter, that their voices are heard, and that they are part of something meaningful. Many believe that influence is about being persuasive, charismatic, or having a strong presence. But the most impactful individuals are not necessarily the loudest in the room. They are the ones who listen, who take the time to understand others before speaking, and who create an environment where people feel valued. Influence is not about getting people to do what you want. It is about helping them see why it matters, why they are important, and why their contributions make a difference. When people feel understood, they become more open, they engage in conversations differently, they approach challenges with a sense of ownership, and they become more willing to collaborate. On the other hand, when people feel ignored or dismissed, they shut down, they resist change, and they withdraw from meaningful participation. Influence is not about pushing harder. It is about creating the right environment where people feel safe to step forward on their own. Great leaders, coaches, and mentors understand that their role is not to impose their vision, but to help others discover their own strengths. Influence is about lifting others up, not pulling them in a specific direction. It is about creating opportunities for people to grow, to feel seen, and to take initiative because they want to, not because they are told to. Empathy is the key that unlocks this kind of influence. It is not just about listening to words, but understanding the emotions and motivations behind them. It is about recognizing that every person has a story, experiences that shape their thinking, and challenges that affect their ability to engage. When someone feels like they are more than just another worker, student, or team member, when they feel like they are a valued individual, they become far more invested in the work, the mission, and the people around them. Organizations that fail to create this kind of culture often struggle with disengagement, low morale, and lack of motivation. When people feel like they are just another number, another role to fill, or another task to complete, they put in the bare minimum. But when they feel valued, when they know their ideas matter, and when they trust that they are heard, they step up in ways that go beyond any formal job description. This is why the most influential leaders spend more time listening than speaking. They ask questions not to confirm their own beliefs, but to truly understand different perspectives. They do not assume they have all the answers. Instead, they create an environment where people feel empowered to contribute their own solutions. In relationships, influence is not about being right. It is about making the other person feel heard. Whether in friendships, families, or partnerships, people respond not to arguments, but to understanding. When someone feels like their emotions and perspectives are validated, they become more open to discussion, more willing to compromise, and more engaged in finding solutions together. Empathy-driven influence is also what builds strong communities and movements. The most powerful social changes in history did not happen because a leader forced people to comply. They happened because people felt deeply connected to a cause, to a mission, and to each other. They felt seen, they felt heard, and because of that, they were willing to take action. True influence lasts beyond a single conversation or moment. It creates a lasting impact because it is built on trust and connection. The leaders, mentors, and individuals who leave the greatest mark on the world are not those who simply instruct or persuade, but those who make others feel valued, capable, and inspired to take action on their own. People do not take action just because they are told to. They take action because they feel connected to a purpose, because they believe in what they are doing, and because they feel valued in the process. The difference between obligation and inspiration is the feeling of being understood and supported. When people feel truly seen, they give more, contribute more, and invest themselves fully, not because they are forced to, but because they genuinely want to. Most of the time, instructions alone are not enough to drive action. People may follow orders or meet expectations, but unless they feel connected to the work or the goal, their effort will be limited. However, when they feel a deep sense of purpose, when they feel that their role matters, they will go above and beyond what is required. They will take ownership, innovate, and put their heart into what they do. Understanding is the key that unlocks this level of engagement. When people feel that their perspectives, challenges, and emotions are recognized, they respond differently. They do not just perform a task, they take pride in it. They do not just participate, they contribute meaningfully. This is why leaders, teachers, and mentors who take the time to understand the people they guide inspire far greater results than those who simply dictate expectations. In any workplace, team, or community, the energy of the people involved determines the outcome. When people feel disconnected, unappreciated, or unheard, they disengage. They do only what is necessary and nothing more. But when they feel truly valued, when they know their input matters, and when they see the bigger picture, they commit fully. They become invested not just in the outcome, but in the journey. Inspiration happens when people feel a personal connection to their work. This connection does not come from pressure, rules, or demands. It comes from feeling that their work has meaning and that they are making a difference. A leader who simply gives orders may get results, but a leader who understands their people will inspire loyalty, creativity, and passion. It is easy to assume that people are motivated by external rewards, bonuses, promotions, recognition. While these things play a role, true motivation comes from something deeper. It comes from feeling like what they do matters. It comes from feeling that they are an essential part of something bigger than themselves. It comes from knowing that their efforts are seen and appreciated. Empathy creates the kind of environment where this deeper motivation can thrive. When people feel understood, they become more open to feedback, more willing to take risks, and more confident in their abilities. They no longer work out of fear or obligation. They work with enthusiasm and commitment. They take initiative, they solve problems, and they push themselves to grow, not because they are told to, but because they feel inspired to. This applies to every area of life, from business to personal relationships. In families, when children feel understood, they communicate better, trust more, and engage more positively. In friendships, when people feel valued, they show up more fully. In teams, when individuals feel heard, they collaborate more effectively. Every meaningful connection is built on the foundation of understanding, and with that understanding comes a willingness to take action. Too often, leaders, managers, and even parents rely on authority to drive behavior. They expect compliance, assuming that rules and expectations alone are enough. But compliance is not the same as commitment. People may follow instructions to avoid consequences, but they will only give their best effort when they feel inspired. Empathy is not about making things easier for people. It is about helping them feel capable, supported, and motivated. It is about removing barriers, whether those are emotional, mental, or structural, so that people can step into their full potential. When someone feels truly understood, they become more confident, more creative, and more willing to take meaningful action. The most powerful form of leadership, influence, and connection comes from this simple truth. People want to feel that they matter. They want to know that their ideas, efforts, and presence make a difference. When that need is met, they respond with energy, passion, and commitment, not because they have to, but because they want to. Empathy is not just a skill, it is a way of leading, connecting, and inspiring action. It is the foundation of trust, the fuel of meaningful relationships, and the key to unlocking the full potential of individuals and teams. In a world that often prioritizes efficiency over connection, results over relationships, and authority over understanding, it is easy to overlook the simple truth that people do their best work, make their greatest contributions, and find their deepest sense of purpose when they feel truly seen and valued. At its core, leadership is not about commanding people to follow, it is about making them feel safe enough to take the next step. People do not take risks when they fear failure. They take risks when they know that someone believes in them. They do not open up when they feel judged. They open up when they feel heard. They do not give their best effort when they feel like just another number. They give their best when they know their contributions matter. The most successful teams, organizations, and communities are not the ones with the strictest rules or the most powerful leaders. They are the ones built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. They are the ones where people feel encouraged to share ideas, where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth, and where individuals are empowered to take ownership of their work and their purpose. They are the ones where people do not just show up because they have to, but because they want to. The difference between an environment that limits people and one that inspires them is often the presence of empathy. A leader who dictates without listening creates a culture of fear and hesitation. A leader who listens, understands, and supports creates a culture of growth and innovation. A teacher who assumes they know what is best without considering a student's perspective may enforce rules, but a teacher who takes the time to understand their students will inspire learning. A manager who values results over people may meet deadlines, but a manager who values people will build a team that exceeds expectations. Empathy-driven leadership does not mean avoiding tough decisions or failing to hold people accountable. It means making those decisions with an awareness of their impact on real human beings. It means holding people to high standards while also supporting them in reaching those standards. It means recognizing that the most effective way to motivate, to inspire, and to lead is not through authority alone, but through understanding and connection. In relationships, the same principle applies. People do not stay in friendships, partnerships, or families because of obligation. They stay because they feel valued, respected, and understood. When people feel dismissed or unimportant, they withdraw. When they feel acknowledged, appreciated, and supported, they invest themselves more fully. Every strong relationship, whether personal or professional, is built on the foundation of empathy. The power of empathy is that it transforms interactions from surface-level exchanges into meaningful connections. It turns employees into team members, customers into loyal advocates, and acquaintances into trusted friends. It turns a conversation into an opportunity to uplift someone, a workplace into an environment where people thrive, and a community into a place where people feel like they belong. People will forget instructions, rules, and even words spoken in passing, but they will never forget how they felt in someone's presence. They will never forget the leader who made them feel capable, the friend who made them feel understood, or the mentor who made them believe in themselves. That impact lasts far beyond a single conversation or moment. It shapes lives, careers, and futures. Every day, there is an opportunity to lead with empathy. In every interaction, there is a choice to listen or to dismiss, to support or to criticize, to connect or to command. Every leader, teacher, parent, coach, and friend has the ability to shape the environment around them, not through authority, but through understanding. The greatest influence does not come from demanding action, but from inspiring it. Empathy is the bridge between people. It is the difference between compliance and commitment, between instruction and inspiration, between existing and truly thriving. It is not just a strategy for leadership. It is the foundation of human connection, and through it, people are empowered to do more, be more, and contribute more than they ever thought possible.